Double Dragon was released on the Sega Master System in October of 1988. The Nintendo NES system actually had it before that, but that's a different story because even though the Nintendo system actually probably looked better in graphics, the Sega Master System was more true to the arcade cabinet. You could actually play two players, and of course it was Billy Lee and his twin brother Jimmy Lee, and they're out to can never remember the name of the girl who gets kidnapped, but she gets kidnapped in the beginning. Marianne. Marianne is the girl who gets kidnapped in the beginning after getting gut punched. Probably wouldn't fly too well today, but it's actually a pretty good game. Some of the things that I liked about it was the fact that it was two-player like the arcade. It is just 4 levels, but you can continue as many times as you want throughout the game until you get to the last level. Once you're on the 4th level, which is obviously the finishing level with the final boss, if you die, that's it. So definitely use those first 3 levels as your practice. But they did a good job with a lot of the things you could do in the game. Like even in the manual, the fighting techniques. I love the old manuals back there with the drawn. If the graphics actually looked that good, it'd be even better. But like the manual says here, it says, fighting techniques. The Black Warriors are skilled fighters, but you are a true master. Your arsenal of kicks and punches will be your only hope as you battle your way through the crime-infested streets. So let's see here. You have your leaping reverse kick. Press buttons 1 and 2 simultaneously, and you will leap up and execute a powerful kick in the opposite direction you are facing. I actually use that one quite often because for some reason whenever I get hit down, I am always facing the wrong way. The next one I use a lot is the jump kick, which is push buttons 1 and 2 simultaneously while pushing the direction button either right or left, and you will execute a jump kick in that direction. Elbow smash, push the directional button to the opposite direction that you are facing and simultaneously push button 2, your elbow becomes a deadly weapon. Headbutt, I do a lot of these because I'm always tapping forward when battling. Push the directional button left twice or right twice to give your enemies the real headache. So you're basically mashing it in the direction of the enemy. Roundhouse kick, as you press button 1 to kick your opponent, your front snap kick will become a more powerful roundhouse kick. Uppercut punch. As you press button 2 to punch your opponent, your punches repeat and become more powerful uppercuts. Head knee smash. When you stand on top of the downed enemy, you automatically place him in a headlock. Press button 1 to jab him with your knee. Brutal but effective. Shoulder throw. When you've placed your opponent in a headlock, press button 2 and fling him over your shoulder and slam him to the ground. Some of those last ones, like the knee smash and the shoulder throw, it's one of the things I really liked about these games when they came from the arcade, because when you played the arcade, back when arcades were still around, even though they're making a comeback now, those were like the cream of the crop graphics back then. So it was pretty awesome seeing, tossing a character and everything. Side-scroller fighting games were some of my favorites back then. And of course, you have your various weapons. When we'll say it how the manual says it here, in addition to your hands and your feet, you have other lethal weapons at your disposal, which you will find on the ground from time to time. To pick these weapons up, move over them and press button 2. When an enemy wields one of these weapons, knock him down, make him drop it on the ground. So you have the drum, the box, which, as you can see in the screenshot here, it says Sega on there, kind of cheesy as an after effect. It actually says Sega in the game though also. And then the rock. You have a whip and a bat as a weapon, and then throwable items, you have the knife and the dynamite. I love the dynamite because that usually ends up actually helping me out as long as I don't use it. And what I mean by that is, when they throw the dynamite, just stay away from it. Usually the people who are attacking you, they'll get hurt by it. And I always like that in games where their own weapons hurt them also, or you can take their weapons and pick them up. Nowadays that's kind of commonplace in first-person shooters and stuff, where if you take someone down, you can take their weapon. But back then, that was actually pretty cool. Linda's whip, at least I think her name's Linda. I always love the fact that she had just a pretty plain name. But the whip, always my favorite. With the bat, I never seem to always get into the right range with that. Whip, you could just continuously hit. And then the Black Warriors gang. Here are some of the bad guys you'll have to beat to win. So you got a Bobo, Roper, whatever that is, Williams, Jeff, Linda, and Willie. I absolutely love those names. Who came up with those names? There's nothing wrong with those names. They're everyday names. It's just not something, I guess I would say, Linda, whip that person. But yeah, that's their names. And those are the characters you see throughout the game. One of the things to know about a weapon, too, is that when you have a weapon, it is only good for that round. Not the whole board, just that round. Once you clear everyone on that screen, you do lose the weapon as you're moving on, which would be nice if you could keep it going, but unfortunately you don't. And like mentioned before, the game has 4 levels, or missions as they call it in here. You start out, mission 1 is the slums, mission 2 is the factory district, and mission 3 is the park, and those are the ones where you can continue all the way through as many times as you want. Mission 4, the Black Warriors headquarters, that's where you'll end up fighting the final boss to save Marianne, and that one's where you have to be more careful. You can't just go in there all crazy and expect to continue further. Now, out of all the Double Dragon systems for console back in the day, Sega Genesis was my favorite. I felt the graphics were pretty good on it. It was 2-player, unlike the NES where it was not 2-player. I never actually played the Super Nintendo version. I'll have to try that out. But one of the things that you could do with the Genesis that you can't do with the Master System, if anyone's seeing this and wondering, in the Genesis system, when I would play with my friends, if one of us were getting low on health, my friend would come over and kill me, because you can hurt your partners, or vice versa. And the reason why is you would actually take their life, and it was kind of like a little cheat to kind of keep on going through. In the Master System version, you can't do that. If you beat up your partner, they just lose a life. You do not gain the life back. So that's something to be careful about also. Otherwise, Double Dragon, I personally think it's a great game. I have better memories of it than some of the people who maybe complain about it flashing when it gets too much is going on the screen. But I do remember, late 80s and being a teenager and seeing this game and thinking to myself, this is awesome that this had ported over. I mean, I was an Atari fan, but even in the day of Atari, there was no secret those games were not the best ports from an arcade. They just kind of gave you a taste of what the game could be, where Double Dragon actually looked like a port of the game. Yes, not equal graphics or anything, but the layout and everything was the same. It is definitely what I consider a must-have, if not at least the Master System version, the Genesis version. And of course, a lot of the newer ones. There's a Double Dragon Neon that actually looks completely upgraded graphics and stuff. Looks really cool. And I believe that is on the Xbox 360 store. But otherwise, hope you liked the video, and don't like, but like anyways. Share, subscribe, and thanks.